Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome all our guests tonight to the regular business meeting of the Grosse Township Board of Trustees, December 10th, 2012. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we remain in open session. We call the meeting to order and had a closed session period after our originally scheduled study session, just to move things along. So we have adjourned to open session. The meeting continues. We have no presentation scheduled. So at this time, I would entertain additions, deletions to the agenda. And I guess I will make or propose one addition. We have an additional closed session discussion topic that has of a timely nature, and we are going to substitute that for the scheduled closed session, or we intend to, with the vote of the board, to add that to the closed session after this regular business meeting is closed. So I will move that we add the policy discussion, closed session policy discussion, to the closed session at the end of the business meeting.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Bundy. It is a closed session. I don't know how much we can discuss. Comments, questions from the board? All right, with sorry, Mr. Racker.
You said it's a policy discussion. What's the
Mike?
What policy are we discussing?
How much can we reveal? We're doing it closed because it's a policy discussion. Mr. Ream.
Yes, I had made the request after discussing one of our personnel policies with other township managers to our legal counsel and asked that they provide me an opinion regarding the applicability of this policy. So that at this point, I think that's my comfort level of explaining this from the standpoint that it does have to do with the legal matter.
Okay, that's fine. I just think it's important to know at least what the general topic is, even though it's a closed session.
Of course, any results will be made public.
So how would you like us to review the minutes? Policy discussion on employment?
Who would you refer to it as? Personnel policy?
Legal opinion regarding policy implementation.
All right. Other discussion on the board? With none offered, those in favor of amending the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. The agenda stands amended. Unless are there other additions, deletions to the agenda? Okay. With none offered, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Budney.
Support.
Seconded by Clerk Ranka. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands amended. The consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 12-117. It consists of the approval of the minutes of the November 27, 2012 regular meeting and approval of the check register dated December 7, 2012.
Supported by...
Support.
I think Mr. Bundy first, so he's getting good at this. Okay. Seconded by Mr. Bundy. Discussion among the board? Okay, if none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda stands amended. Action items.
This is on the communications. Lauren, you want to take it?
Based upon the approval, I'd like to make the Communications Commission to recommend to the Township Board.
Lauren?
Is it not on? I swear to God it was on.
I'd like to propose a motion based upon the approval of the Communications Commission to recommend the Township Board appointment of Udo O'Connor to serve on the Communications Commission for the term of December 10th, 2012 through November 2014.
Support.
All right, this will generate some discussion among the board. I am going to go first, and not without some serious reservation. This has been, to me, a very contentious issue for any one of a number of reasons. Among them, that we just don't have a good policy for bringing on commission and committee members. Obviously, they do the bulk of the work. They make it relatively easy for those elected officials to run the township. They make it easy for the managers and the administrators to get their jobs done. But in this case, I think it's going to generate far more problems than it will solve. This will be a few minutes. I provided some documents to my fellow board members. I'll make them public if necessary. Over 40 years ago, when I entered the United States Air Force Academy, we were brought under an honor code. It was very simple. It was very clear. We will not lie, steal, or cheat, or tolerate among us anyone who does. It was simple because it was enforceable. The toleration clause made an individual equally culpable if he knew a fellow cadet was lying or stealing and didn't turn him in. It was enforceable, it worked, and it's not that demanding. We will not lie, steal, or cheat, or tolerate among us anyone who does. One of our study sessions as a newly elected board, Mrs. O'Connor proudly announced that, and we were all, well, most of us were there, I was a thorn in the side of the last administration, I'll be a thorn in the side of this administration. A lot of untrue information, false information, what if you were correcting your children you would refer to as lies, were brought forth by Mrs. O'Connor. I can't put it any simpler than that. I'm going to review three of the most recent ones anyway. When Mr. Posiask had arranged for Michigan Supreme Court Justice Mary Beth Kelly to formally administer the oath of office to the incoming Board of Trustees. While advising the incoming Board of Events, I was provided a yellow highlighted copy of Michigan Compiled Law 168.362, and it was highlighted to warn me that the oath had to be taken at or before noon or the township would have no elected leadership. I immediately replied that the next sentence in the statute allows the existing board members to hold office until a successor is sworn in or until the 1st of January. This is an excerpt from that statute. The first sentence was highlighted. All township officers' terms shall commence at 12 noon on November 20th next, following their election, and they shall qualify before assuming the duties of their office. The sentence that wasn't highlighted, each township officer shall hold office until a successor is elected and qualified, but not beyond January 1st. So we got a following email prior to the swearing-in ceremony, which was a very nice ceremony. Congratulations to the new elected members of Gocio Township Board. As you begin your tenure in the 2012-16 Township Board, accept my sincerest wishes for future success. Rest of that. As you know, the tenure of the current Township Board ends at noon on November 20th, 2012. Arrangements were made for Michigan Supreme Court Justice Mary Beth Kelly to perform your swearing-in ceremony at noon that day. However, my office was recently informed that, after finding out that Justice Kelly is not available to perform the function, Supervisor Loftus made alternative arrangements to conduct the ceremony at 7:30. Unfortunately, such a delay would leave the township without an officially designated board during the hours between noon and 7:30 on November 20th. For this reason, I strongly urge all newly elected board members to contact Deputy Clerk Gray to make individual arrangements to take the official oath of office on or before November 20th at noon as determined, MCL 168.362. Everyone can then attend a more formal group ceremony with Justice Kelly evening, as planned by Mr. Loftus, without jeopardizing the township. What was the purpose of that? First of all, it was Mr. Posiask who had arranged it. Again, it was a perfectly legal ceremony. She knew, the clerk's office knew, that there was no jeopardy to the township. What was the purpose of putting out that email to the board members and to township employees? What did that accomplish?
Mr. Supervisor, if you excuse me, please, I'd like to call the question. This is unnecessary.
I'm sorry, all board members get to opine, and we open to public comment before we can call the question.
Mr. Supervisor, I don't think that's correct.
It is. Every board member gets a chance to add or opt out, and we have to open it to public content. We can call the question if the discussion becomes irrelevant and unproductive. But no, I will not allow. I won't entertain calling the question. I still have 6 other board members who may choose to chime in.
But the whole purpose of calling the question is to stop the discussion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't stop the discussion. This is public debate. This is part of the law.
This is part of our procedure.
We can't.
And I'm by no means am I, the most knowledgeable on the procedure, being new on the board. But this is part of our administrative procedures.
We cannot call the question until we've allowed public comment, until every member of this board has had an opportunity to opine or choose not to opine.
Mrs. Grace, you're looking at the book. Do you have any data for us on calling the question?
And remember, that's Robert's rules. That is not state law.
Robert's rules is what this board adopted as the method to operate
Agreed,
under.
to the extent possible, that complies with state law.
Calling the question is outlined in Robert's rules, and since you have the township attorney here, perhaps he would like to opine on this, but I would be glad to read what is in Robert's rules.
I prefer from a state law perspective, since that supersedes Robert's rules.
Ms. Gray, we operate under Robert's rules. Would you mind reading?
It says, close debate immediately, the motion for the previous question. Often you will want not just to limit debate, but to end it altogether. There is a specialized motion for this purpose. The adoption of this motion immediately closes debate and also prevents the making of a number of secondary motions, including those to amend, commit, and postpone to a certain time. The adoption prevents the making of further motions of these types. The motion to close debate immediately is called the motion for the previous question, like the motion to limit or extend the limits of debate. The motion of the previous question requires a 2/3 vote and is undebatable. The proper wording to close debate on the immediately pending motion is to say, I move the previous question, because it closes debate and brings the assembly to an immediate vote, something that is frequently desired or necessary. The motion for the previous question is quite commonly used in meetings. Frequently, however, the motion is made in a non-standard form by a member saying, I call the question, or I move to vote now. If otherwise properly moved, the chair should treat these as motions for the previous question. Sometimes a member will call out question or vote without first seeking recognition and obtaining the floor. This does not qualify as the making of the motion and is out of order if another member is speaking or seeking recognition. Cutting off debate infringes on the right of members to speak. Therefore, no one member or group of members can force an immediate end to debate if even one member with the right to do so wants to speak, except through the proper adoption of the previous question. This requires seeking and getting recognition and then moving the previous question, after which it must be seconded and adopted by a 2/3 vote.
Okay, that covers Robert's rules. Now, state law. We have 7 trustees, all have the opportunity to discuss and debate this issue. Not ad nauseum, but they all have a chance to opine or to choose not to opine. Also, for members of the public, not to go on forever, but a chance to opine.
So, Ms. Gray, if I understood you correctly, then if a motion's called and it's approved by 2/3 or more, then a vote is immediate.
That's what I understand.
So
If that doesn't contradict state law.
Mr. Supervisor, with all due respect, I'm going to call the question one more time.
Second.
You're going to cut off debate from the rest of this board. You would choose to cut off public opinion, public input.
No, the board, by 2/3 vote, will decide whether they want to continue or eliminate the debate.
Well, I don't know where to go with this. I'm pretty sure state law would supersede. But we've got our pact with our attorney. We don't blindside him with questions he can't research and properly answer.
We had 2 weeks to research this.
Well, nobody was talking about calling a question 2 weeks ago. Can take a short recess?
No, Mr. Supervisor, under Robert's rules, which is what this board has adopted, based upon the information that was read and the motion that was made and seconded, that it would be appropriate for a vote, and if it does pass by 2/3, then debate would end and the question would be called.
But does that, so I know we adopted Robert's rules to the extent that we can, to the extent that it doesn't conflict with state law, with free speech, with open meetings. But all of those are state laws, and they all supersede Robert's rules. But we don't know, we don't have a definitive list of MCL in front of us. I think this infringes, again, we have 7 trustees, we have public present who may have come here to opine on this. And I don't want to shut the public out of this discussion and this debate. We haven't gone on ad nauseum. I've covered one instance that took, maybe 5 minutes. I don't think that's a lot of time. I shouldn't be pleading to you, but. So if we have the question and it's called, we have a legal issue, and we may be back here in 2 weeks opening up this same question. Would that would probably be the appropriate action. If we are in fact violating state law, then we reopen this in our next board meeting in January and redress the problem.
The way I see it, we operate under Robert's rules. Motion is called to call a question, and I think we need to vote on the motion.
Well, the motion's been made and it's been seconded. Take a roll call vote. We most likely will be back here. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the state left that up. I'll start. Roll call vote. Supervisor says no. Mr. Treasurer?
Yes.
Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
Mr. Budley?
Yes.
Mr. Malvesto?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Prozias?
Nay, for reasons I gave last time.
5-2 does meet the 2/3 requirement. The question is called. Therefore, those in favor of approving the appointment of Mr. O'Connor to the Communication Commission, and I will do a roll call vote on this again also, signify by saying aye. Supervisor, nay. Mr. Treasurer?
Yes.
Mr. Clerk?
Aye.
Mr. Budley?
Aye.
Mr. Malvesto?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
And Mr. Prozias?
Nay.
5-2. Congratulations, Mrs. O'Connor. That concludes our action items. Clerk's report. Mr. Anka.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. No update from the clerk's office. From the liaison report, we do have a police commission meeting tomorrow night, and the planning commission meeting will not be until February due to holiday schedules. That's it for me.
That's it. Mr. Treasurer. So I can't do fast. I got to work on mine too. So you can just stretch it out, Ted.
All right. The November finance reports are not yet available. They should be available next board meeting. We haven't got all the bills in. The winter tax, 2012 winter tax bills have been mailed out. Most of my friends thank me for my Christmas card and say they're going to send me one of these cards. So I don't open any envelopes this time of year. All property tax owners will be mailed the original tax bill, and the mortgage companies that request tax bills for the escrow accounts, they hold them, and they have been sent duplicate bills. So I had a couple of people ask me about, they got the tax bill, if your mortgage company has requested it through escrow accounts. They do have copies of these tax bills. it would behoove you to check. Winter bill payments are now being accepted at the Grosse Ile branch of Metro Shores Credit Union. Previously, PNC was the only financial institution to accept Grosse Ile winter bill payments. I'm sorry, water bill payments. Those who qualify for, and it may apply for a deferment of the winter tax bills, this deferment will extend the due date of February 14th to April 30th, 2013. Please contact the Treasurer's Office to inquire or receive your deferment form. The deferment form will show the qualifications and also will be on our Treasurer's website at grosseile.com. Pet tags for 2013 are now available. Please bring in valid rabies vaccination certification to obtain these for your pets. I'll leave the update for the DPS to Mr. Budney, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Moving on, trustee reports. Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Nothing happening on the ZBA front. We had our meeting last month was canceled. We will have a meeting next month, I'm pretty sure. There's quite a few things in the hopper on that, so we should see some action there. The DPS meeting is tomorrow at 7:30 in this room. I would encourage people to come and see that. As I would encourage people to come to this meeting and see it. We all know that everybody has a busy schedule and you cannot get to all the meetings, but you should make an effort to get involved in your community and come to some of the meetings and really learn what's going on. And I'd just like to wish everybody here and in TV land a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Okay, moving on then, Ms. Prozas. I'm sorry, Mr. Modesto. No, it's okay. I just got to put my glasses on before I read these.
All right, first off, a lot of people stopped and asked me about all the activity at the foot of East River Road and Parkway. I'd like you to know that Campo donated both time, material, and equipment to retain the bank down to the shoreline. And when I asked about how they got the excavator down, he said it was a little trickier getting it back up. That's a big piece of equipment to go down that bank. And also more landscaping donated the matting to go over the top of the freshly laid seed. So that was a donation as well. And thank you very much. That it'll be well used by the township in the years to come. Number two, I want to thank the Recreation Committee for accepting me as their liaison. I'm looking forward to a lot of great things coming up in the future. Number three, the Christmas season is upon us, and I want everybody to remember that while we're in our beds with sugar plums dancing in our heads, it also happens to be the time of year that there's a lot more medical urgencies, and while we're sleeping in bed, our volunteer fire department is making calls in the middle of the night to ensure that every one of us residents are covered should we have the need for it. So thanks, guys. And Duncan, Chief. But I say, well, we're sleeping, they're on call.
I know this is our last meeting till the new year hits. Just to bring the board up to speed, the fire department's had an extremely busy year. At this point in time, we're shooting for probably about a 17 to 18% increase in our rescue runs. So our total call-based fire and rescue is going to be probably over 600 calls this year. We meet for trainings about 25 times a year. We meet for EMS 10 times a year, and then officers' meetings are 12 times a year, and then we have what they call general membership meetings 12 times a year. So this fire department is coming together probably close to 650, 700 times a year. So when you think of the word volunteer, which the fire department has pretty much let that word go by the wayside, we're turning into a very busy operation. So, and our call base at night, believe it or not, is getting huge. So we're out at night a lot.
And each member of the fire department volunteer fire department is required to make 30% of the calls. Am I correct?
Rules are 30% of fire, 30% of rescue, and 30% of all total calls between 10 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's a pretty rigorous schedule, and they also got to make 80% of their trainings, 80% of their EMS trainings, and 80% of all business meetings. So it's a pretty stringent group. So we want first class, and that's how we work.
Thanks, Chief, but especially thanks to your crew.
I appreciate it.
They're well thought of.
Duncan, you just want to mention how your Goodfellows group is doing this year?
Goodfellows is doing well right now. As usual, Groseville residents have stepped up to the plate for Adopt a Family. They have taken all our families for us to where Goodfellows can concentrate on bigger projects for residents on the island that need anything from sewer repair to roof repair to, furnace repair, all that kind of stuff, even health care. We make sure that our elderly get the necessary medications that they need if they don't have the health care to make that happen.
That's all done through the Goodfellows?
That's all done through the Goodfellows, and with the generosity of the residents of Groseville, with our letter that goes out for collections, and the collections has been phenomenal this year.
Great.
So, but Goodfellows is up and running. And if anybody knows of a family, I know it's a very quiet, and people are embarrassed to even come to us. Please call me, and I will call the family personally. It's all kept quiet. It's all number system. We don't talk about names. We don't talk about it. It's a very small group within the fire department that operate Goodfellows. So it's probably one of the largest charitable groups on Groseville. So, but if anybody knows of anybody that needs help for the holidays out there, their kids are going to go without anything, please call my office. We want to make sure the children of Groseville are getting what they need for Christmas.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
And does that conclude?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aldesto. Mr. Posey.
Well, you two guys make it hard to follow. But thank you to the police and fire department especially, and that Goodfellow effort, I couldn't be more strong in support of that. My wife, as you know, gets involved with a lot of the senior citizens here on the island, and she and the fire department and police department have worked together in happy and sometimes sad times together, but always working together. And that's a lot of heart. And bless you guys for all that heart. I was privileged to take on the liaison role for 2 commissions, and one I have met and one I am about to meet. Very soon I will be meeting with the, first of all, I'd like to say that I've met with the Bicycle and Pedestrian Path Committee one time, and having had some history with Bike Paths in the past, it's kind of pleasing to see Mr. Delphi sitting here in the audience, because he was a bike path buddy with us many years ago. I think he still is. We're going to get you back, Jack. This committee is more revved up than anything I've ever seen about bike paths and pedestrian paths. And later in the presentation tonight, we're going to talk about one of the specific projects that they're really driving for. So look forward to the discussion item. The other committee, many of those folks on the Greenways Open Space Committee are people that I have worked with and known for many years. Cliff, Woody, Art Kester, all stalwarts in this township and really dedicated to this Open Space Committee and the Greenways work. So I look forward to them. So I'm not going to report about them, but I will tell you that I'll get run over by this bike path committee if I'm not careful. They are fast and good. I wish everyone here a very, very happy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and let's work together to make this township click next year. Thank you. End of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Posey. Yes, Mrs. Smith.
Okay, I haven't met with either of my particular commissions just yet. We will be meeting in the January timeframe, but I have had communications both with Mrs. Walker as well as Tim Rooney from the Rec Department. So I'm looking forward to that. The other thing that I wanted to kind of bring up at this particular time is maybe the opportunity to take a look at a process improvement. If we take a look at, the hot topic tonight, as well as some issues that's happened in the past, and Wally seems to have been not a victim, but whatever it may be, I think that there's room for improvement, and I would actually like to work with Clerk Ranka and anybody else on the board, as well as Dale and any members of the public, to improve the process as well as the application if we so deem that that's something that could be done. Would love to work on something like that, is bring recommendations forward to the board, and we can all take a look at it, discuss it, consider it, modify it, however it may be. But again, just looking at process improvement. So, just want to mention it. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Smith. Moving on to supervisor's report. First, going back to last weekend, so thanks to Tim Rooney, the entire Recreation Department, the Downtown Development Authority, and all the volunteers. Made Island Glow just a really great time. Good turnout, lots of kids, most of them good, some of them were naughty, most of them were nice. It was just a real great evening. The weather was balmy for a change, and it was a lot of fun, and we got a chance to show off our community. I think everybody had a good time. The Grocery Historical Society, Mrs. Walker, would you help me out on this and make sure I've got the information back on the Christmas boutique?
Yeah.
Christmas Kathy, would you take the microphone? Now, I have some hours here. It's
Thank you.
I have a Friday from 3 to 7 and Saturday, Sunday,
Yes.
10 to 4. So
Thank
those
you.
hours are correct.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And why don't you take it from here?
Oh, I thank you so much. First of all, thank you all for your vote tonight for Mrs. O'Connor. I look forward to working with her. I'm sure Lauren does also. The Historical Society Holiday Gift Boutique, this is our 10th year, and we wish you will all come down and say goodbye to Roberta and myself, because we will no longer be doing it. It's going great guns this year. We're 12.77% ahead of last year, and we expect to see everyone down there. And everybody listening, please come down. We have wonderful items, and we have people here that I know have been shopping, and we'll verify that. But please come. We have 2 more weekends, and it would be Friday from 3 to 7, and Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 4. We will be, the last weekend, we are there for the truly desperate. We will be there for you as long as you want. So please come down, and thank you again, Supervisor. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker.
Kathy, I have one question. Who's going to be brave enough to step up and fill those shoes?
That would have to be up to the Historical Society. Roberta wants to have Christmas back. Go figure. You know, it's been 10 years, and it's a long time. And just to let you know, and it'll be in the paper, we will gross over $210,000 in 10 years, and a portion of all proceeds goes to the Historical Society. So we've contributed many, many thousands of dollars to keep it up. And I know everybody appreciates the Historical Society, and they appreciate you. So please come down, say goodbye to us, and do your shopping on the island. If you can't find it at our place, up and down Macomb Street, please come and support. Shop small. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. My position on that boutique is always, if they don't have it, you don't need it.
That's right.
So,
Thank you, Supervisor, and for being on TV with us.
yeah, my pleasure. Let's see, we have some, I'll cover this so I can let Dale do it, but Township Hall, Rec Department, all township offices closed Monday, December 24th, Tuesday, December 25th. Also going on to New Year's Eve, December 31st, that's Monday, Tuesday, January 1st, New Year's Day. Closed, all township offices closed both those days. Basically, it's 4-day weekends. We're all going to need retraining. We come back to work on Wednesday morning. But back open Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock. Let's see, other odds and ends. If you recall, Jill Ryan, through Rotary, the East Coast Rotary, the areas that were hit by Hurricane Superstorm Sandy, which is hard to say quickly, had a coat drive, coat winter clothes drive. Hard to imagine. People completely wiped out, just completely wiped out, going into a northeast winter. So Jill reported that it collected over 5 tons of clothing, mostly winter weight clothing. Mr. Duker, the Grosseto Airport, donated the use of the hangar for whatever, it was a week or so to store the stuff while we were arranging for shipment. Doug Beaudry, Russ Beaudry, were arranged for it wasn't a forklift, but it was similar to get the stuff off the who got the pallets? Mike,
Donated by Watson Engineering.
Okay, Watson Engineering donated the pallets to strap the donations to. Shearwell lent us a forklift to get the pallets up off of the hangar floor and into the truck that Walmart had donated. And all this was coordinated through various rotaries from here to the East Coast, and the stuff was delivered. So, Jill, thanks for setting that up, and to all those of you who contributed, thank you. You know where the stuff went, and obviously you're seeing they have snow on the ground. They really needed it. DPS has been fixing water mains as we speak. The big one they just fixed was at the corner of Meridian and Parkway. Replaced, as I recall, 56 feet of water main, 80 feet of concrete. It was a big project. I know there was inconvenience. Traffic was tied up, and they were out in some really nasty weather. It was a big job. Thank you for your patience. Getting back to my means of getting this kind of information. I think it was important that the residents knew that this was going on, that there could be traffic tie-ups, roads closed. So I'm using Facebook more and more. I'm working with Ted Fournier. He has a Grosse Township Facebook site. This gives us the ability to get information out. It shouldn't be the only source, but a good means of getting information out on an almost real-time basis. I'm just amazed at how many people look at Facebook all the time. And it hits you as an email. People with any kind of smartphone get this, so we can get information to you. A lot of opportunities here. If one of the bridges is going to be closed for an extended period of time, we'll have the ability to notify you of that. All you high school and college kids, teach your parents how to use Facebook. Because we're going to rely on that more and more as a means of getting real-time information out. Again, working with Ted on that, and the responses I got from my queries were very positive. It's just the way people do business. So that's the way we'll, at least for a while anyway, till we get something better, the way we'll do business. Complaints about the audio from meetings recorded at the boardroom. Some parts of the island get good audio, some get lousy. Again, working with Ted on that. There are various nodes. He has a return feed from Comcast, so he knows he has a strong feed coming out, and the feed that comes back to here is clear. But obviously, numerous places on the island get a lousy feed. So if we can find those places, isolate them, we can work with Comcast. We refer to them as nodes, and there's a lot of nodes on the island. If we can find those areas where you're not getting good audio, we can work with Comcast to try to get it fixed. I guess that closes my general comments. At this time, we're going to open it up to public comment. For those who weren't here earlier, we are adhering to the 3-minute rule. I had asked, I'm sorry?
Discussion first. There is a discussion.
There is. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Okay, I'm done with my report, and we'll get to the public comment shortly. Discussion item is promoting active communities, and Mr. Pozas.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The discussion item is in 3 words: promoting active communities, and it is a function of the Bike Path Committee that I have been brought into this presentation, and I think we have 3 or 4 people, or had 3 or 4 people earlier from the Bike Path and Pedestrian Path Advisory Committee here, and I see Tim is going to go out and bring them back in. The Promoting Active Communities program is an interesting one. Grosse has been a community that has prided itself on its bike paths, and we're very, very proud of our bike paths, always have been. They've gotten bigger, and they've been maintained well, and they've been resurfaced and stretched and added to and modified and adopted, and it's all because people like to walk on those bike paths. People like to ride their bikes on those paths. And that is an outward demonstration of people promoting an active lifestyle. Now, I got Eric looking in my left ear, and Eric was the predecessor on that commission, but it's been handed over to me, and you can grab the ball if I do one of those quarterback things and lose it. But right now, where we're at in this program is making the world find out that Grosse is a community that values physical activity, that values the opportunity for people to do things in the outdoors, and promote this sort of a built environment that allows people to not only drive to places, but to ride to places and walk to places. We have in our audience some folks from that committee, and I think that we've elected Alan Veliquette as one of our spokesmen, if not the main spokesman, to spend a little time with you to just give you a 5-minute picture of the pack. And I'd like to just coin the phrase right from the get-go: we're going to lead the pack. This is a state initiative. This community has already had the foresight to do this. And Alan, come on up to this podium and rescue me. Okay?
Thank you, Alan. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alan Galaquat. I'm on the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Commission for the Township. We've been recently working with Mr. Boziak on the PAC program. He spoke a little bit about it. It's promoting active communities. The program was initiated about 1999 by the Michigan Fitness Foundation. They started a steering committee with the members of the Michigan Fitness Foundation, Michigan State, and University of Michigan. And what they did is they put together a program for communities within Michigan to self-evaluate their ability to provide a community that promotes active lifestyles. They set parameters up, and the program has grown over the last 13 years. From the original 3 organizations to up to about 31 different organizations supporting the PAC program. The PAC program is a great program and a tool for any venue in Michigan to use as a tool to better facilitate active projects within their community, such as bike paths, both for pedestrian and bicyclists. Once they complete this, they can use it in many different ways. I will make mention of those ways. They can use it for recognition. Once they're awarded a standing within that evaluation, they can use it for future planning, for partnerships, for public awareness, for marketing, and for funding. That's a very brief synopsis of what they're going to get out of this. This program is a completely free program, so financially speaking, we don't have to commit ourselves short-term or long-term. We can set the program up, we can evaluate ourselves, and start from there. We can use it as a learning tool. Our bike paths are 20 years old now. We've actually put bike paths in before anybody put them in. We really started the whole program, and it seems that we've almost got to the point where we're not promoting these bike paths. Hopefully, this PAC program will allow us to do that. So I can answer questions, or I can continue to ramble. It's up to you.
Can I just add something to this? And I think it's something that initially cracks me up that we are going to be re-emphasizing our improved bike path system here. But I've heard for the last several years now about how important it is to get people to move to Grosse Ile. One of the quality of life issues that some folks will look at is what amenities are available for me to take my kids for a bicycle ride. Where is it possible for me to take a walk safe from traffic? And by participating in this program and getting the publicity and the awards, and what comes with this is promotion and publicity in papers and in other organs of information, we're going to be able to get out in front of people and say, hey, instead of moving to Ann Arbor, we're going to go down there and look at Grosse Ile. Instead of moving to Traverse City, we ought to look at Grosse Ile. They seem to have something to offer that we're looking for. I believe that that's the real secret behind the success of this PAC, and it doesn't cost anything but little time. Do it.
I agree with you, Sean.
All right. So I understand the system.
Yes, you do.
Now we got to go to work. And so tonight was an introduction, and Alan is here to answer questions for you, but this is an introduction to a process that we're going to be working on in that committee and be periodically bringing back to this board for information and approval as we go forward. Do you want to introduce anyone else that's in the committee here? We got a few folks here. And this is a committee of, 6, 7 people? 4 of them are here tonight. Says a lot about their interest.
Brian, Jane, would you like to step up here?
Jane, thank you for coming tonight. Brian, my neighbor, thank you for coming tonight. And Alan, you may recognize Alan. He drives around here in a black and white car. But these are folks that are very instrumental in going to make PAC work. We started the PAC. I looked in this document, and in 2004, we were recognized. And we seem to have fallen by the wayside, I guess. But we're coming back. And I think that this committee will do great things. I'm looking forward to working on it, and I'm looking forward to bringing this board up to speed as to our progress. And let's see if we can use this as a sales tool for Roseville, too. Thank you very much, all three of you, and to the whole committee.
Any questions?
Can we expand, I assume we can, we're saying physically active communities, we've been focusing on bike paths, but a lot of other opportunities here. We do have a few trails established. That's a physical activity. We now have a beach where someone could launch a non-motorized boat. I'd like to get more of those. That's a great physical activity that very few communities can offer. The bike paths are, nothing makes me happier than see a bunch of families out on the bike paths with the kids in their big wheels and the moms pushing the baby strollers. And I just reflect on, not to ramble too long, but 4 generations of ladies on the bike path one afternoon. My wife and I were out riding. There was a great-grandmother, a grandmother, a mother, and a young daughter. One was in stroller, so 2 were on wheels and 2 were strolling behind them. And where else, middle of the afternoon, perfectly safe, watching the deer going down the bike path along Meridian. That, to me, encapsulates what bike paths bring to this community. You can do it in complete safety. So I want to see more of that. I want to see more activities so that we can do safely, more physical activities. So I can live long and healthy anyway. So all for it. Again, it separates this community from some others. It's another reason for people to want to live in Garcia. Excited about it. The Complete Streets Initiative gets wrapped into this, and we're moving in the right direction. We just need to keep moving. I'll turn it back to you, Al.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Commission can be contacted through our website. It's a link on the Township website. It's gibikeped@gmail.com.
That's the email address.
That is the email address. If anybody'd like to start communicating and share their thoughts with us, feel free to do so.
When's your meetings?
Our meetings are the third Tuesday of the month. So we'll have one coming up in here in a few weeks here. I believe the 18th.
We have to check them out.
The 18th. Thank you. So yeah, and they're televised, as well as we do have the archives online, so anyone can go up and see exactly what's going on. You know, the goal of the commission is again to raise awareness and basically make sure that we're doing good public outreach with our residents. And I think another thing about this PAC, or promoting active communities, is it does go beyond bike paths, but it goes into things that we're already excelling at. So, for example, with the Planning Commission, looking at the ways that we're creating more walkable communities through the site plan review and things that we're doing currently through the Recreation Department. It's more than just physical facilities, and it's about providing benchmarks, and from there, us as a Brazil, as a township, we decide where we want to go. It's not something that the state of Michigan coming in here and saying, well, if you don't do this, you're not a walkable community, you're not a bikeable community. It's basically a formula for us to decide on, what do we vision for ourselves as a community, and a path to do that, the benchmarks in that area. So I'm excited to do it, and I'm excited as well as that we've got a board that's excited about it.
I was wondering, are you working with, because I also serve on the Commerce Park Airport Marketing Subcommittee, and Mike, I don't know, maybe you could shed some light on this too, from the standpoint of there's pilots that come in from all over, either as a fuel stop or just here for lunch or whatever it may be. They may want use of a bicycle, maybe having an inventory of bikes at the FBO that people could sign out and use them and bike downtown and grab something at Lloyd's or anything like that? Just an idea.
Absolutely. We've discussed that.
Okay, good.
I will say that when we complete this PAC self-evaluation, it's going to touch on about 13 different areas, from community planning, ordinance, zoning codes, city planning review process, the maintenance, programs, promotions, facilities for physical activity, policies and education for safety and security, bicycle facilities, public transportation, the downtown area, the shopping areas, schools, neighborhoods, and then we have a complex summary detail. And you'll use that in your end result to evaluate what you need to do in the future to increase the opportunity for activity in the community. So it's always a growing process. Nobody's ever obtained the top award because there's so much to do, and it's such a complex evaluation. So we will be meeting with the department heads and discussing each one of these 13 different areas to try to complete this PAC. It will be due July 1 of 2013. That is our deadline, so we hope to have everything done well before then and then submit it.
It's an open-ended proposition with continuous improvement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, well, that's encouraging. Now, as I was saying, to the Township Manager, Mr. Ram.
Two brief items. The first, we had a Historical Society update on the lighthouse, but we were able to, as last time, unable to coordinate our schedules. So that detailed report will be forthcoming. And the second item is wanted to announce to the community that Thursday, December 20th, that the township offices will be closed from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For an extended lunch period. So I just wanted to get the word out that will be posted as well on the doors, and will accommodate the residents the rest of that day. Thank you.
The Historical Society, members of the Historical Society are holding an open house at Centennial Farm tomorrow evening on the lighthouse issue. An initiative to relight the light. There's the possibility of putting an LED replica lens, a fifth order Fresnel lens, to reinstall the Garcia Road Channel front range light to its secondary duty. Excuse me, after the ranges were replaced on the Lady Troy River, it became a hazard marker and denoted a turning point. There's not only one turn in the Lady Troy River, and it's just a beam of light, and the Garcia light was the only light that marked that turning point between the two channels until the Coast Guard put an automated crib out in the middle of the river. So from about 1913 until 1963, that was the mission to go see a light. There will be a discussion on that tomorrow at Centennial Farm. I believe it starts at 7 o'clock. So if you'd like to see the light relit, funds are available. Come by and make your opinions known. If you don't want to see the Garcia light relit, come over to Centennial Farm tomorrow evening and make your opinions known. I think it's a good idea, but I'm one vote. Now, moving on. Open the public hearing again. In the room. I got to clarify some misconceptions that apparently I didn't put clearly enough 2 weeks ago. I don't request a card before I'll let anyone ask a question. What I wanted was to, if you have a question you want answered, you can call or email or drop by. Any of us will be willing to answer questions. If you want a question answered publicly, then it would be in both of our best interest to provide us with that question so that we can research it and we can get you the right answer the first time rather than just saying, I'll find out and I'll call you back. So, but nobody's requesting you write down your question on a card and pass it into us. You can still come up and ask your question, but again, I prefer to know about it ahead of time so we can research it and get you the right answer. So with that, open up the public comment. Yes, Mr. Clark, will you first? You know the rules. Introduce yourself. Legal fees, Mr. Target?
What do you Clark Lane?
Yeah, legal fees.
Legal fees on the warrant list dated 12/6/2012 to O'Reilly Ramsey LLPC in the amount of $1,435.
That was for what, 1 week, 1 month?
A month.
And that was a month of what?
$1,435. It was November.
The wood cutting went great. 11 groups showed up. They cleared up a lot of land, and we're going to do it in March again. This is the most I've seen. The first couple, 1 or 2 people would show up, and it wasn't that great. But these people really got in there, cut a lot of crap out.
Everybody ate?
Everybody ate.
Excellent.
I saw that with my kids, the lines and everything else for that. Okay, I got a couple of questions. The playscape is currently behind the PNC Bank. Can it be moved to Water's Edge or urban properties to where they can see out in the open?
This question was brought up a couple of times, a couple of sources. I think we researched it. Conceivably, with enough money, we could move it, but it would probably cost less to replace it. It's, Dale's done some research on it. It had a 10-year useful life. It's 20 years old. So we may be better off. Actually, I'd like to obviously get more access to it. Where it is now, it's going to be difficult with the physical constraints. It's still a nice playscape. We've spent money and time in maintaining it. It's just not as accessible as it used to be. But to move it, we might be better off starting over and with a playscape that's up to current codes. That's all I can offer.
Okay, the Roseland retirees received 2% increase in their pension they received, including the police.
Can you turn that over to?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, every year they get a 2% raise.
Yeah, it's called a cost of living
The
adjustment.
retired for 20, you got a 40% raise?
It's a 20, but you live 40 years.
That's nice. That's nice. I don't know if anybody does that, except the Grove City.
That's why you became a cop.
Huh?
That's why you became a cop.
Yeah, right. Okay. Anybody stop it?
Well, since you're contractual now, the next contract, it could be opened up again.
In the current contract with the PLM, we stopped. I'm sorry, in the administration, we stopped the 2% multiplier for new
Okay,
hires.
so can we stop with the administration?
We did with administration new hires.
The new hires, how about the old hires?
You can't, but not for retirees. I mean,
Can't do that.
not for retirees, they retired with
What are the retirees? I'm saying the new ones, the ones like new ones.
Not yet retirees.
Not retired yet.
That's an option of the board.
Okay, that's all I know. How is the public channel PEG activated?
Okay, PEG and active PEG is 3 channels: public, education, and government. Education is school, government is this one. The P channel, the public channel, we can activate it if there's a need for it. But we'd have to, there'd be more feeds involved, more time and money, and we really don't have anything to broadcast on it.
Okay, is the public channel funded by the Communication Commission?
Since we're not using it, it's not being funded by anybody, the public channel.
But if it was?
If it were, it would probably, we'd have to fund it through somewhere, so probably through communication. That would be a logical funding source.
Okay, the last one. What is the state enforcement of township ordinances relating to parking vehicles on private property? What progress have you made?
A number of still moving parts on that. We are reviewing International Business Code property maintenance law. And again, this gets a little bit involved, but we adopted the IBC for structural, electric, and plumbing. Fire department essentially has it along with NFPA and a couple other overarching codes. What we didn't adopt was the property maintenance part of IBC, so BOCA is still in force, but we're looking at adopting, and it won't be that much different, but to take on the IBC, review it, make that our standard going forward, and move on with, you're talking about parking vehicles, one vehicle is okay, junk vehicles.
Bullshit.
We need to, Mr. Rue, we need to work on that.
Mr. Supervisor, we're expecting to have a discussion item on the board at one of our January meetings regarding the property maintenance code in relationship to our existing regulations. So that'll be forthcoming.
We're working on it. I want to see this done, you want to see it done.
We've been working at it for 15 years. Not you, other boards.
Hey, Mr. Clark, anything you didn't cover? How's that? That was time well spent, I think. Other questions, comments from the public present? Mrs. Walker.
Kathy Walker, Thorpe Court. In keeping with what you said about Facebook, I forgot to mention the Grosso Historical Society Holiday Gift Boutique has an updated Facebook, and we update it every day with items that are for sale. So you might, if you want to take a look, and of course it's also on, our show is on GITV, Channel 12 for Comcast, Channel 10 for Huawei. Thank you.
Hey, Mrs. Walker, other comments from the public present? Mr. Glasgow.
As we come to an end of another year, and this has been a busy one, no different than the ones we've had in the past, we had an election year, and there were some very important issues on that election, one of them being the police millage. Since it is the season to be thankful, not just as a commissioner, not just as a committee member, but as a fellow neighbor. I'd like to publicly thank all the people who supported that millage, and it was so very important that we did get it. It was sort of a twofold message. It was an opportunity for the public to show their support and gratitude to a department of 24 people who give us a service second to none. And I look at that as sort of a bond. And I'm looking forward to seeing this township build on that bond in the future. In closing, the best wishes to the board, township managers, our departments, commissions, the best wishes to you and your family for a happy holiday. I'm getting a little old for Santa Claus, so I have a Christmas wish I'm going to give to the board. Nothing derogatory, just a wish. Let's focus not on dragging Colosio through its past. Let's pick it up and move it into the future. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. So we're going to top that? Okay, other questions, comments from the public? None offered, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we close the public portion of the meeting and move into closed session.
Motion is to adjourn the public session and adjourn the closed session. Second. Second by Mr. Biden, you got the microphone first. With no discussion, those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, let's meet in closed session, and let's make it 10-10. And for everyone else, thank you for coming this evening. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
That hand is so beautiful.